welcome to another episode of Whatever's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that's cool in the world today. I am the aftermarket superhero, Daniel Paul Crow, and with me is a replica action hero, Tim. How we doing, man?
Yeah, pretty good, man, but I don't know if I really like that intro.
You never like my intros.
Well, you had some good ones. Good might be a stretch, but this one was definitely a lot more forced.
Fair enough.
I think it's the hay fever. You're sounding a little bit congested, buddy.
Oh, my brain's just really taking a hit with this hay fever. Before, just so the listeners know, I was trying to record the trailer for the next episode, and it took me 30 minutes. I was literally by myself, and every single take I stuffed it up because I just couldn't focus, and I'm literally arguing with myself, making myself laugh and just making it worse, and it's all because of this stupid hay fever.
You're sure it's not because of the movie that we had to watch?
Oh no, that had a big part of it as well, but the hay fever is definitely the main cause.
All right, so should I basically introduce the movie?
No, the one thing I want to know, and I'm pretty sure it was me that suggested this, and I don't know how I did it, but I know it's me. How the hell did we get on a Gary Daniels trip?
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting, that, because, you know, I definitely wanted to watch that Blood Moon movie, but around the same time you were watching Fist of the North Star. And this is one that I told you about, where I saw like a photo of him doing this, what looked like an epic jump spinning kick. And I was like, okay, I need to check this out. And, you know, like, memory is a little bit fuzzy, but, you know, now that I think about it, I don't think the review was very kind on this movie either.
Well, what magazine was it, and what year are we talking about when you first saw it?
So, the photo or the film itself? No,
the photo.
Yeah, the photo, I would have seen that in about 99 or 2000 in Impact magazine. And so, like, that was basically, like, this is pre-internet, or before we actually had access to the internet. But, you know, the way that I got information on action movies, especially stuff from Hong Kong, would have been via Impact magazine.
I don't even think they make Impact magazine anymore, do they?
I
haven't seen that in years.
I think it's out of publication now. But yeah, like, you know, anything that had anything to do with Jet Li or Jackie Chan, you know, Bruce Lee stuff, even some other up and coming stars like Mark Dacascos or whatever. Yeah, this magazine would definitely cover it. So it always had, you know, something that interested me. And yeah, seeing this image of Gary Daniels doing that jump spinning kick, I was like, yeah, okay, this guy looks like, you know, he might be able to film a decent action scene, so I might go and check it out. And of course, I'd seen him in City Hunter a few years after that, and where he played maybe the first live action version of Ken.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, because Street Fighter didn't come out till, was it 95?
Maybe
96.
Yeah, maybe.
And
around
City Hunter was 93, right?
Yep. I think it was around then, very early 90s.
Because I remember I had a huge crush on the girl that was kidnapped in that movie, and yeah, that's I just remember how funny that film was, because you never seen Jackie Chan in drag at least at that point for me, and just seeing the mashup between Street Fighter and that movie was just that was just gold, absolute gold.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Definitely another look.
And Gary was fantastic in that movie. He didn't have much. I don't even think he had any speaking lines, but he was fantastic. He was just funny and goofy, but he also could fight. If he had
any speaking lines in that, I don't think I heard his actual voice. He was likely dubbed.
No, I'm pretty sure he was dubbed. That's what I mean. I don't think he actually had any speaking lines, because I don't recall him actually having an accent.
So are we going to keep talking about City Hunter? It feels like we could fill out a whole episode on City Hunter.
We could, but we need to talk about this movie because
we spent a lot of time on this, dude.
Go ahead. What's the title of the movie? And oh man, you just take it. You take it away, Sunshine.
The title of the movie is Recoil, and it is a 1998 action thriller. And the storyline goes, courtesy of Google, because they do the best summaries, after killing the son of a mafia boss during a bank robbery, a Los Angeles police officer begins his own personal vendetta against the mob after the mafioso Don successfully had the cop's family murdered.
Oh man, that's an understatement. I'm just like waiting to. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think of the word. It's because that summary. It does sum it up, but there's like bits and pieces of it where it's like it's not believable as well, like the whole story.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Like there's so much in this that's really over the top. And, you know, I think the reason why we wanted to watch this as well was to see if Gary Daniels had any decent movies. You know, like, I mean, Blood Moon was obviously unintentionally funny. Fist of the North Star, you said, was just awful, which kind of upsets, you know, the conclusion of a future episode where we talk about Fist of the North Star.
Well, I did say it was terrible, but I didn't really go into detail as if I liked it or not, because there's terrible and then there's terribly good. So
yeah, okay. Well, maybe it fits in the so bad it's good category. But this, look, you know, I think that Blood Moon definitely fits the so bad it's good category. But this one, yeah, I wanted to see if Gary Daniels actually had something decent in his filmography. And yeah, well, this movie evidence that he actually doesn't have much much in his filmography that's really wonderful to watch. This is a difficult slog for you. I remember seeing in messages.
Oh man, the first time I watched it, it was just barely bearable. If I still drank, I think I'd be able to watch this and be fine. The fact that I don't drink anymore, on the second watching, that was painful. Like, I can think of 10 things that I'd rather do and be tortured with than watch this movie. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that's probably maybe just a little bit more than like what I feel about this. Like, I'm pretty indifferent to this one.
Can I just apologize to Gary Daniels if he does listen to this? I don't mean anything bad about it. Like, I'm not digging at you. This movie was just painful to watch, man. I feel sorry for saying that for that. And I just wanted to apologize.
Okay, well, yeah, you keep digging there, buddy. But yeah, look, I reckon that, you know, like, I forgot to say this in the last episode, but if Gary Daniels had actually gotten his start in the 80s and he was given better material than what he had to work with in the 90s, I reckon he could have carved out a pretty decent career and maybe have even been on the level of, say, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I was just about to say that. I would have thought he would have been JCVD if he started in the 80s, because, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme, not so much a great actor, but hell of a lot martial artist, very believable. Like Gary, the only difference is Gary can speak English properly. Yeah, and he just has that sort of moxie with him as well, like he's legitimate badass. So I like him more than JCVD. Yeah,
I think that, you know, he's got a certain charisma about him based on the 3 movies that we've watched. Well, I've only seen 2 out of the 3, but you've definitely seen Fist of the North Star, which I have to get onto. But yeah, with this, I mean, you know, it's a pretty standard sort of 90s direct-to-video sort of film, and it, you know, doesn't break the mold or anything like that as far as revenge thrillers go, but there is just so much that I found that was quite fun about it, especially from the start and so this was during my rewatch of it. I was sending you photos. So in the beginning, you hear this radio talk show talking about, you know, violence and what have you, and you see one person driving, and then you actually get to see quite a bit of the interior of their car. But then a couple of minutes later, after the bank robbery started, Gary Daniels and his partner Cassidy, they get the call. But then we're looking at the car, and it's the exact same car.
Exactly the same.
And I'm just like, what? Hang on. And so I quickly took screen grabs, and I'm like, Dan, is it the same car? You're like, yep, totally the same car. Like, this movie had no budget. So they had to recycle it. I was like, hang on, was that Gary Daniels on his way to work? No, it was just some other chump. So, like, I was freaking out. I was like, this is gold. This is absolute gold. And throughout the movie, they recycle a lot of things too. Like, there's this car chase later on that we'll talk about, but yeah, they just recycle shots. And, you know, I think it's, one, because, yeah, like you said, this movie was shot on a budget, and 2, they just wanted to make it look better than what it actually was.
I think that's always going to be the problem with a lot of the 90s action movies, because they wanted to look more legit than it actually was, and I think just embrace the B gradiness of it all, and you can get a really good movie out of it. But this one, I believe the distributor may have been New Line in some territories, but I'm not sure. But I think because they had that sort of distributing thing, they wanted to, you know, sort of get that sort of feel. It just fell flat.
Yeah.
Which really sucks
totally.
because, yeah, like, especially in the opening bit, a lot of especially with that commentary that's going on in the background with the radio, it didn't feel believable. Like, that you could tell that they're trying to give their best, but it just comes off like a really bad video games commentary.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's not on the level of any sort of Grand Theft Auto game where they clearly put a lot of work into the radio stations. But yeah, everything about this feels really, really forced. You know, definitely a very contrived feel to what really should be a by the numbers and fairly simple sort of setup. But, you know, they waste a lot of stuff in this because his martial arts background, they don't even really use it until like the last 20, 30 minutes of the movie. You know, which I thought was a huge mistake. I mean, you know, you want to see this guy who's got some incredible skills. He was a professional fighter, for crying out loud, before he became a movie star. And for him to have been, you know, the action bit reduced to, you know, like just some really sort of maybe mediocre gunplay, you know, mediocre driving scenes or chase sequences. It was a real wasted opportunity having his talent on board for this project.
Well, here's the one thing that I did. I had this in a note, and you got the martial arts talent, and he's obviously from England. They do a scene. I'm just cutting way into the movie. I just got to try and put this out. He's playing with the soccer ball. Now, if you're a martial artist and you're really good at your kicks and stuff, I was expecting him to do some, you know, flips and shit like that with the ball. And all it was just like a couple of kicks, and he's saying to his son, "Can you do that?" "No, Dad, I can't do that." I'll show you even more. And he'll kick, and then they go off into the next scene. I'm like, come on, that would have been a perfect example to do, just some showing off business in for that scene. And it's a wasted opportunity.
Well, but we did see that in Blood Moon where he does the backflip on the beach.
Yeah, but this is another movie.
Like, it looked absolutely terrible. Like you said, it was like, you know, it was like Magic Mike music, and it looked like the videos that you see whenever you're at a karaoke bar and you're singing a song, but then they use some trashy 80s clip of, you know, some supposed glamour models. But in that initial sequence, I think it's pretty impressive what they did, even though a lot of it didn't make much sense. But there were so many bits where Gary, unfortunately, just did not look comfortable with what he was doing. Like, they're trying to get him to emote. And I think that's the main problem, trying to get him to, you know, convey certain emotions that are definitely out of his range, at least this early in his career. That's a big mistake. You know, like you see the old cop that gets shot and is dying. You know, he runs in there, he's like, "Ted, hang in there, buddy." And he's like,
That's a good impression of him, Tim. I really like that.
And as soon as he holds his hand, he's, you know, like, "We need a medic." And then he's like, as the guy dies, he's like, "Damn it." And the voice breaking, you know, the high pitch of it just reminded me so much of Ryan Gosling's voice, which was a surprise when you see the trailer for Gangster Squad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
This dude's like, you know, "You can't kill me. You're a cop." And then, you know, Ryan Gosling, you know, cameras on his face. He's like, "Not anymore." It was so much like that. But then, yeah, you know, there's stuff that's ludicrous about this, which is, you know, quite fitting because a lot of the 80s and 90s action movies were quite bombastic. So, you know, he flips out. He decides to step out from behind cover, and he's just standing directly in the line of fire to shoot at the bad guys, and then they blow up a car behind him. He doesn't even flinch from you know, the force of that explosion. And, you know, there's even a bit where he grabs a bunch of grenades, throws them at the foot of a bad guy, but then there's a sound bite that comes in that makes it sound like it's a gun that's firing at this dude's feet.
I had to rewind that because I remember you said that. I was like, "That was a gun, you idiot!" And then and then when I watched on the second movie, oh no, he's right. It's actually grenades.
And then when he's meant to show a softer side, so he saves this little kid. You know, he's like, "Oh, come on, honey. You know, come on, honey. I'm a police officer. Come on, you come with me.
Stop doing the voice. You're gonna make me laugh. You're doing such a good accent.
I'll take you home. Come on, honey. Come with me." And he kisses this little kid on the head, and I'm just like, oh, this is so awkward. Like, it is super cringe.
Oh, I just like, what is... I wouldn't do that. Like, what are you doing? But the next bit... I'm sorry to cut you off, but the next bit, this is what shit me the most about the opening sequence. His partner attacks the guy who's about to kill them, and he just tackles him with a hug, and he just hugs him out, and then that's it. He's dead. There was no little struggle, like a breakneck or anything. There wasn't even a sound effect. He hugged him, and he fell down to the ground. That was it.
Yeah. His partner, I think, was the most charismatic part of the movie. That guy, I didn't catch his name, but the guy that plays Cassidy, I thought he was really good. And it turned out he was actually in the first Mortal Kombat movie. He was the first Jax. And sadly, you know, his career was cut short. He passed away, I think, in like 98.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I was like thinking, oh yeah, this guy's movies would probably be pretty good to check out. But yeah, like, you know, sadly the dude passed away. Which is a real shame because
He was very charismatic in this movie, and anything I've seen him, and I admit he has been in that many movies, but anything I saw him in, he was really great. And I thought when he didn't return as Jax, I thought that was horrible, but now I can see why he didn't return it, because he passed away.
yeah, and you know, he had, I think I read that he had a career in law enforcement, so you know, he probably would have nailed a lot of the specifics down for any cop roles, but you know, he should have gotten to do more, you know what I mean? And it's a shame that he didn't do much after this in Mortal Kombat. They move on to this really protracted chase. Like, this chase goes on for ages at the beginning of the film, and it doesn't make much sense. Like, why does the entire police force chase after one motorbike, but they're all just driving right behind it? Like, wouldn't they, you know, they've got radios, for fuck's sake. Like, wouldn't they have just coordinated like some sort of attempt to like pin this motorcycle rider down somewhere? But instead it just goes on for ages. Like, you know, he's weaving through everything. Like, he's just making them look like buffoons. And it didn't really click until, you know, like towards the end of it. I was like, hang on, that they just expended all of that effort just to chase this one dude down. And it's just so questionable what they've done in terms of continuity, because, you know, Gary's in the car with his partner, and then his partner is, you know, they actually get to where the suspect is. Gary hops out of the car to chase him down on foot along with 4 other officers, but where's his partner? His partner just hangs back.
Yeah.
Just hang on. Why wasn't he with him? Where could he have gone?
The world's worst partner. But the one thing about that scene was that there was no commentary in between. Like you're saying, they have radios, and yet there was no communication. It was just, what was it, 7 minutes of car noises and the occasional
yeah, explosions, you know, that sort of stuff. It looked very Michael Bay. Like, I think that may have been the tone they were going for, but some of it, you know, taking advantage of the locale, I think, you know, like with the hills and what have you, it did kind of remind me a bit of Bullet, but just not, like, this was flashy. Like, it wasn't skilled, you know, like, and I think the fact that they drew it out for so long, it's kind of like when you're padding out an essay, you just have to put more and more words in so that you can meet the word count. Like, that's exactly what it felt like. You know, they were just padding out the runtime, and it's a shame because if they trimmed it, they probably could have made more room for, you know, showing off like Gary's actual strengths in action choreography. But yeah, look, you know, we'll get into that. But the next bit, you meet the villain of the piece. So he's the father of a crime family. His name's Mr. Sloan. And so he's sitting watching the news. So it turns out that the guy who was riding the motorbike was his son. And some amateur videographer has somehow managed to capture footage of this in an era before smartphones where cameras were very easy to come by. But yeah, they've captured, well, even though it's amateur, it looks quite professionally shot. They capture the footage of this kid getting executed. Now, the dad, Mr. Sloan, he's taped it. it turns out. He's taped it and he keeps rewinding so that he can see all the cops, and then he keeps rewinding so that he can see his dead son's face. So you mean to tell me that he actually sat there during the news, decided, I need to tape this just so I can rewatch it over and over again?
I didn't even notice that. I was just like, oh, okay. I forgot this is a 90s movie, so because I've gotten so used to, rewind live TV. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And I can't believe I didn't think of that.
It is so ham-fisted. Like, I know they wanted to like create drama out of it, but surely like there would have been a better choice if they'd just, if he'd happened upon this while he was channel surfing one night and then he sees this, they could have gotten a better emotional reaction rather than going for this. Like, this is before DVR, for crying out loud. Like, it's not like he can rewind live TV.
No.
And it's just this was even harder still. I think was his wife. What did you think of the Julia Sloan character?
I didn't find her at all. What's the word?
Believable.
That's one thing, but I just didn't find her relatable as well, because like she's trying to be sympathetic, but I think it was the tone of voice that she was doing and her facial features were just not connecting.
She was really bad. Like I took down some of her lines, but she goes, "You killers! What the hell do you know about condolences? Get out of my house!" She starts chewing him out later on. She's like, "He was our baby. You threw him out into the streets. You drove him into that gang. You."
You're on fire tonight with your voices, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah.
It's seriously on point.
And she's really like, the scene probably required, let's say, a 4. She went all the way up to an 8, maybe even 11. Like, she's just taken it up that much. And I was thinking, this woman, surely she couldn't have been in anything good apart from, like, this probably was her best thing. Turns out she was Lieutenant Savick in Star Trek 3 and 4.
What?
Yeah. She was the replacement for Kirstie Alley.
I'm going to have to check this out. I thought, man, that's just blowing my mind. Or maybe it's the hay fever that's blowing my mind. But that's... Oh, man, I don't know how to compute that. I really don't.
It's full on, man. Like, it just... I was thinking, hang on, you were in a very big motion picture before. You were in the Star Trek franchise, and your character was not nearly this exaggerated. But in this, it's like she was like calling down religious fury. Like she's going, pray, Vincent, pray for the soul of your son, pray for all the souls of all the men whose lives you condemned tonight. They're somebody's sons too. Pray for their families, their children, their mothers. Is that what you told your God?
Oh, man, that's gold.
The lines in this are amazing. They're so amazing. But I forgot to mention, you said something about soccer before. There's actually a really awesome bit at the station. So there's this one bit where... Okay, so Gary Daniels' character... He has a Zippo lighter. He doesn't smoke, for one.
Yeah.
So he just pulls out the Zippo lighter every now and again when he's deep in thought. And I was just like, well, that's just stupid. Why would you need that? You don't need a Zippo lighter. But 2... Exactly. They're at the precinct and then he's got the soccer ball. And then he's meant to get to practice. Do you remember this transition?
Oh, now, yeah, okay. Now I get it, yeah.
Like, his partner turns around. His partner's, like, got his back turned to him. And then Gary Daniels throws the soccer ball up into the air, and then it cuts to a soccer ball dropping down from the sky in the park. I was like, oh my god. This is like Blood Moon all over again, where they're Film School 101 on how to segue your scenes.
Segue in the 90s. Oh, jeez.
Like, it's just so needless. It's as needless as the Zippo lighter. And it gets better and better. I mean, he's trying to be he's trying to reflect on things. He's at the beach with his partner and he's like, You know, they're looking out at the ocean. He's like, it's so vast, man. It's like looking into eternity. I never tire of it.
That's such a lame line.
And then when his partner walks off, he's like, I wonder where his parents are. The dialogue is about as subtle as a sledgehammer. And, you know, it fits within this being a cheap movie. Like, you know, you can imagine that some hack has cobbled together this script in, like, you know, maybe one weekend cram session. I mean, the director...
It kind of does sound like that, to be honest.
Yeah, the director, Art Camacho, he's got a writing credit on this. I don't think he's written much since, but yeah, like the guy that has the main writing credit, yeah, if you go onto IMDb, his filmography is very, very questionable. But we now bring ourselves to maybe one of your favorite parts of the movie, and perhaps your only favorite part of the movie.
Can I just say my line then?
Well, okay, we'll just set it up for our listeners. So Mr. Sloan's ordered that all the cops that were involved in the death of his son be assassinated. So he enlists the aid of his sons, well, his surviving sons, as well as the shady Mr. Brown. But the very first assassination sequence is Dan's favorite, and Dan will introduce it now.
These two cops come up who were part of the guys that killed the original son, and they bust a hooker with a guy who's in the backseat of is it a van or is it a love bug? I can't remember what it was.
It's a van, yeah.
It's a van, yeah. And she's basically saying to them, "Oh, let me off. Go around the block, and I'll give you a free one later." And then as they're sitting there laughing, one of the sons shoots both of them, kills them, and then they take their uniforms, and that's pretty much the end of that scene.
Well, he's her customer, so yeah, he knew that these cops were gonna basically stop this act, and yeah, like he just pops out from behind the seat with the gun and he just kills them both.
I wonder if she died as well, because I'm just like, if they're in the mob, like, wouldn't that be the one thing, just to kill all the witnesses or something? Yeah. Or am I just being me being ironic?
Well, it's probably a loose end that they didn't even think about, to be honest. And yeah, I can only imagine that they were just trying to rush through this as quickly as possible. Let's bear in mind, this came out in 98, so this is a year after Gary had done The Wonderful Blood Moon. But yeah, with this one, there is some polish to it, I have to say. Like, I think some of the stunts are done quite well. I think that attack on the police station was quite chilling. I thought it was pretty effective.
I thought it was very interesting, because like you've got I'm gonna say 20 cops that would be in the station.
Yeah. And
they all get shot. Like, not one of them thought, "Oh, hang on, I've got a gun. Why don't I just shoot them?" But no, they all just stood there and took it like a bitch.
It's a bit harsh.
It is.
Yes, but yeah, in that entire sequence, I think what made, and you're not supposed to laugh at it because it's a slaughter. But
I know what you're talking about, because I laughed at it too.
Yeah, because like, it's for starters, it's overkill when Devon Sloan kills Chang. So he's already shot him in the back, and then he kneels on him, says say goodnight, and then he shoots him in the back of the neck, and then the blood is meant to spray up into his face, but it actually came in from another angle. So someone was there off camera to spray the blood or spurt the blood onto his face.
You had one job, blood boy, and you stuffed it up.
It's like, dude, you don't think that we're going to rewind this? You idiots.
We're going to hell because we laughed at that.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why we would go to hell, but it's just it's so bad. Like, it's supposed to evoke that emotion in you, but instead it evokes laughter out of the two of us. I think it's had that effect on a lot of people, because I don't think many people have ever said, "Oh yeah, Recoil, absolute classic." Best cop show ever, or best cop drama action film in a long time.
Maybe let's move on and get to the juicy bits of the movie.
Yeah, well, like Gary's character ends up being able to avoid getting killed off by these assassins, because he went away with his family to the holiday house, and there was some awkward awkward family scenes that were there. It looked kind of okay. Like it wasn't as cringe as what we saw in Blood Moon, but there certainly that was because there was the lack of the Magic Mike music.
Yeah.
Instead, you get like some light saxophone and the kids playing some game that I actually thought could have been taken from RoboCop. I thought this could have been Nukem.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, but now I'm thinking back to it. Yeah.
I was like, Dan will like this. I'm going to make a reference to RoboCop.
Yeah, but no, but it's funny because like there've been so many games that they could have picked, but they just pick something like that, like just like get like the generic brand, Kick 4 or something like that. Surely there's a generic Monopoly out there somewhere that they could have played.
Yeah, dude. Like it was something that sounded very, very complicated. Like that these kids probably wouldn't know how to play, but yeah, oh well, it's a choice. But then when they get back into town, they're at the precinct, and I'm going to have to do another line reading here, but...
Oh, gosh.
Gary's threatened by the captain to be put into witness protection, and he refuses. He's like, no way, Captain. I want this case. I went to the academy with Vasquez. I went to his wedding. I played soccer with Chang. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, that is a solid reason for vengeance, because you played soccer with this guy. Who knows how many times you played soccer with him. And this is what I was texting you about. I was like, dude, this is an absolute...
I told you, it sounds funnier when you say it. Like, reading it, I was just like, I'm lost, but when you say it like that, yeah, now I get it. It's totally...
I was saying to you, I was like, dude, that is such a solid reason for vengeance. So if someone takes me out...
Oh, it totally is.
If someone takes me out, you have to say that to someone. You're going to have to say something like, I ate burgers with Tim.
Let's see, hang on. What would I say? What would we do? We went to a wrestling show with Tim.
Something like that. That's a pretty good ad lib there. But yeah, it was like that line, as I played soccer with Chang. Poor Chang. Poor Chang. But it gets pretty dark after that. There are a couple of attempts on Morgan's life. That's his name. We haven't even said his name. It's that forgettable.
But it's like the most random name, Morgan. He doesn't look like a Morgan. Like he looks.
It's super generic. It's just super generic, like a lot of the stuff that they'd shot in this. But the first attempt on his life, the only noteworthy bit that I found was that the hubcap actually fell from his car onto the hood of the car that was attacking them and then fell off. I was like, that's cool. Like it seemed like for a long time, especially in the 80s movies, hubcap always had to come flying off during a chase scene.
Yeah. And then like weighing and just weighing somebody, or just like weighing to the side and then it's gone again.
Yeah. But then the quite possibly the worst part was when it goes full, I don't know what kind of movie it would have been, but let's say it looks almost kind of Mad Maxian, like with how his family gets offed.
No, yeah, that's pretty accurate. I'd say, to be very close to it. But remember, in Mad Max, it was just the baby and the mum. Yeah,
well, like just the way that this was done was pretty full on. I thought it was maybe even the highlight of the movie at this point, because you do get the sense that it's very tense. It's a horrific scenario to be part of, being attacked by another driver, and then not only that you think that they've made it safely, but then the truck ends up ramming them off the cliff, and that was like, oh man, that was heartbreaking. Actually, I thought that was quite possibly one of the best parts of the film.
I had one thing to say about that bit.
I think I may know where you're going.
Yeah, and it comes back to, well, you're a parent, I'm a godparent. The kids were not wearing seatbelts. I'm like, come on, put them on. Seatbelts save lives, kids. Like, seriously.
For the longest time in the States, you didn't have to wear a seatbelt in the back seat. I don't know if that's still the case now.
No, I believe they got rid of that in the 90s. So that... Yeah, but their parents, though. Like, surely they would have said to them, put your seatbelts on at that point,
Yeah. Well, it was actually quite, you just get a bit of a sick feeling in your stomach seeing this. But like again, this being a really cheap movie, there is a lot of stuff in this that was quite poorly edited together. So obviously it's quite frenetic. They do like quite a lot of fast cutting, but there were bits where like Gary was looking in the side mirror, but the car attacking them is on the other side of the car. And then there are bits where there's like all this luggage, so you can't actually see in the back. So it's like, why is he looking at the rear mirror?
When you can't see, we couldn't see shit.
But then, yeah, the luggage would disappear here and there.
I never noticed that. I'll have to watch it if I ever, manage to watch it again. I have to look out for that. I just never noticed it.
Look, if you want to have a bit of a laugh, I guess you can put this in. I'm definitely rewatching Blood Moon on at least a yearly basis.
Well, you're about to get it on DVD, so
that's right. I'm very happy about that. But yeah, there was a lot of recycled footage in this. So the kids, they enter into the brace position, then you see them doing the exact same movement later on, and you also see that some of Gary's own reactions, like when he's looking in the side mirror, it's the exact same shot. The bit that got me though, even though this is meant to be quite a tragedy, a tragic scene, is where he's holding his kid's hands, and then there's a close-up showing his grip slipping, and then he lets them go, but then they just land safely into the back seat. If it was them trying to say that they were falling out through the back window, I get it, but they just sort of landed harmlessly in the back seat. So I was like, that kind of ruined whatever sort of peril that they were supposed to be in. But I suppose they kind of left it in there because of the fact that they should have cut that, actually. They should have cut that out.
Yeah, but they should have just it should have been a quick death scene, bang, out, and then, set it up, because that whole bit was just really, it dragged on.
I think if they'd kept it as him letting go of his kid's hands, and then it cut to the exterior of the car falling, then it would have been better. I think it would have played out nicer, as nice as you could get a tragic scene like this to play. But I think it would have been better. Maybe
if they had let it just end it at the the hands being falling away, and then cut to him in the bed. Because then you could just leave it to open ended and go, okay, they just died.
Yeah, and how hard was it to watch him try to cry? Like, I couldn't buy the emotion of him crying.
It reminded me of Eddie Murphy trying to cry in Showtime. Like,
yeah.
Oh no, sorry. Can we take that again? Okay. No, I'll do it again. It's terrible.
It just looks so forced, clearly he's not that comfortable at trying to deliver that sort of emotion. And even the bits where he's trying to commit suicide, I mean, they shouldn't have let him talk. As hard as it is to say, I think his strongest parts in this movie is actually where he's not talking.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And it sounds terrible for me to say, but I think you've got a terrible script. The dialogue is so leaden, and whenever you try to get him to deliver a line with some subtlety or whatever, it's just so over the top. He's saying my soul, I've lost my soul. It's like, oh, no, I don't buy that. But where he's actually silent, I think that captures one of his strengths. His strengths are being able to look good fighting in Hong Kong style choreography, check. But two is where he's actually, standing there in silence, reflecting. There's probably a lot more weight in the emotion when he's silent, and I think they accidentally stumbled onto that, because those are the scenes that play the best for him, apart from the action.
You know who he is, though? And now that I think of it, he's kind of like Brock Lesnar, where, if he talks, it goes a little up and down, but if he's just silent, he's intimidating. I think
you're right. And it definitely makes sense, because when you look at the roles that he's been, where he's been more limited, or if he's actually been in a villain role where he has very little to say, or he's been dubbed, like in City Hunter, he actually shines a lot brighter. And I think that's the thing, whoever his agent was, or whoever was trying to get his career off the ground, they made that mistake of trying to make him an action hero. He should have been a villain, at least in the 90s. And if they just kept him as a villain, like, he probably would have had even better performances.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have Blood Moon if that had happened, though. That's the problem.
Well, Blood Moon could have been his origin. I mean, if you look at someone like, and this is not a fair comparison, but Lee Van Cleef, he had some amazing roles as the villain, and perhaps his most memorable ones.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, if you apply that sort of logic to someone like Gary Daniels, perhaps he would have been better cast if he wasn't actually in many spoken roles. But look, I digress. We've got to get through the rest of this movie. There's some really, really silly Christian imagery that they've crammed into this. How did you feel about that?
Oh, I didn't believe any of it.
I struggled with it, dude.
Well, when you do the cross sign, especially the way Gary did it, I'm just like, has he ever done it before? Or like, it strikes me as he may not be a believer. So it's like, because for a lot of people, especially for myself, when I do it, like, you know, like with a lot of passion. And every time I saw him do it, it was very forced. And I don't know. Anytime he did something like that, I was just like, oh, okay, I just can't believe him like that. Even when he went to the tombstones of his family, put the ring onto his wife's tomb. He did the cross, and he says, "I'm sorry, Tina." Even with the tone of voice and his facial expressions and everything like that, it just did not make me believe that he had any sort of spiritual guidance or belief in God.
Yeah, it certainly did not feel very natural. It looked like it was very much crammed in. I actually thought that the bit where he's standing by, I think, the candles silently, and that's like when he removes his crucifix and then he puts that down because he's about to recoil. You know, let's just call back to the title. I thought that was probably the strongest use of it. You know, it does make sense. And, you know, like you said, when he went to the graveyard, that part where he actually leaves his ring there, I thought was quite significant. But I just think that the placement of the scenes was wasted. Like that bit where he, you know, and they could have trimmed down his walk to the gravestones of his slain family. Like it looked like he was walking forever, holding the soccer ball and the flowers and roses. I was like, this is really silly, and they could have used.
Yeah, it really did.
They could have used that to bookend the entire film, and I think that it would have made for a stronger ending than what we got. Because, yeah, look, we'll get to the action in a sec, but the way this movie ends, Christ, it is so abrupt.
Oh God, I hate the ending so bad. Like it's. Let's go into the action bit that leads to the ending, because I don't want to just spoil it. But that's one big hurdle I had with this ending. It's just like I wish we were together to watch it, because I just would have looked at you and just gone, Tim, what the fuck are we watching, man? Like that's not the way you're ending a good action movie. This is how you end a movie in general.
Okay, so before we get to the action, he's leaving, you know, the church where he was recovering.
That's right.
And the priest says to him, the priest doctor, turns out, he goes, "The Lord forgives, and so must man." And Gary says back to him, "Father, I can't." And after that, he just beelines to Sloane's house. So there's no sign of him planning out how he's going to take out all of these bad guys. Nothing whatsoever. He just jets over there straight away. And there's nothing smart about it. It's just him. Like, he's not even in disguise in a lot of these things. It's just him. He just somehow manages to make it there. This is the biggest crime family in, you know, whichever part of America this is supposedly taking place in. And they have no security. He was just able to make it there, and like without a scratch on him. And then, you know,
and all of a sudden now he's a ninja because he can go in and out without, you know, people noticing him.
Exactly. So he goes in there. He puts a gun to one of the sons' backs and he says, "You're coming with me." But then it just spirals out of control from there. And then Sloane, the head of the family, he just yells out to them. he's like, no guns, no guns. I'm like, this is puzzling. You've got a guy who is an active threat. You want him dead, and you're telling all of your men not to use guns. Like, why? And the son that Gary tried to kidnap, well, he disappears, only to reappear there later on. It's like, did you not know how to get the fuck out of this house or something?
I just love the fact that none of the sons looked anywhere near alike. They were all completely different looking guys. Like, there was like no... I didn't realize there were sons until you pointed it out to me when we were talking about this off camera. And I'm just like, hang on, but this guy looks almost as old as the dad. So wait, are we watching another Who Killed Captain Alex, where, you know, age is no limit?
Yeah, this makes very little sense. And even it's like they only pay lip service to the fact that people have to reload, because, you know, clearly from 2 guns he could fire about 50 shots before he has to reload. And yeah, it's just puzzling. But look, some of the action here was, I'm going to say, serviceable in this area. Like, it wasn't memorable. Like, it sort of played through some of, you know, like his hits. So like that, what I thought was a jump spin kick ended up just him jumping straight in the air and almost doing a splits in the air. And with his kicking foot, he does a hook kick to the Asian bad guy's face, which looked impressive. You know, like this guy was basically the Scott Adkins of the 1990s. I'll stand by that, because he was able to do some incredible movements whenever he was filming an action scene. And,
he does.
You know, he's just so smooth, man. Like, you know, you could tell that a lot of his training from when he was doing films in Hong Kong, you know, he'd carried that over throughout his career. And yeah, I wish they'd taken advantage of it more. But yeah, like after this scene, there's, you know, obviously he visits the cemetery, but then, yeah, like you said, he's like a ninja. He creeps up on Sloane at his house, and he just disappears.
Yep. He just goes, I'm going to kill you and your family. I'm Batman.
He says to him, do you dream when you sleep at night, Sloane? I don't. Not anymore. No dreams, no nightmares, nothing. Just blackness. And then Julia runs off, the Sloane's wife. Julia, where you going? Where you going? He sounded like a man trying to convince his wife to stay after she'd caught him cheating. It wasn't.
He really does.
He was such a shit actor. He was so beyond terrible, dude.
Yeah, he was not believable at all. Even as a mob boss, it's just like, you look like a guy. You look like a guy who goes on to like a community theater. Clearly, you're not getting paid. Clearly, you just want to just get your face out there, but you've never bothered to learn how to act, kind of guy.
Okay, so we end up getting to the next death scene. Like, this just progresses. It's just routine at this point. So he goes to try and kill off the second son, who's in a limo going to the airport. I did like how he drove a car to ram one of the cars that was in the sort of, you know, the escort. And he shot through the window and he threw a grenade in the back seat. Like, that kind of looked cool.
That was pretty cool.
I think the director of this really, you know, one of his strengths definitely would be from the framing of the chase sequences. The chase sequences do look superb. But I will say that, you know, for the 3 minutes where Gary and Mr. Brown are struggling on top, well, before this actually. So Gary decides to hop out of his car, and then he's running over the tops of other cars while chasing this limo that's about to get away. He's firing a gun. Mr. Brown pops out of the sunroof of the limo and starts firing 2 guns back. Neither of these 2 pricks can shoot. Like, bullets are going everywhere but where they're supposed to go. Like, and they go through about 50 bullets before, and they don't even hit each other.
No. Not even close.
And then he leaps onto the top of the limo, and they're struggling on top of the limo, you know, like, basically like getting a punch in here and there. A lot of that is recycled footage. And for the 3 minutes that entire struggle plays out, I felt like I was watching something longer. I even said to you via text, I was saying, dude, it's kind of like in Fast and Furious 6, where it's the world's longest runway at an airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except this is this is just some bridge in San Francisco or whatever. And it just kept going on. And I was just like, there's no enjoyment to this. I'm seeing the same image of this guy, like, just flailing about on top of a limo.
Yeah, it had potential to be a really good scene, but it just fell flat because, like, I think it, again, it's like the opening scene of the movie where there's so much into it, but there's just no oomph. And the fact that it was like it was like, oh, I'm trying to kill you. Oh, no, I'm trying to avenge my family. That kind of interaction with the characters, because it wasn't there. It just, you don't care about that scene. Even when the son gets shot by accident, it just went over my head. I was like, oh, he got shot. Did he die? It doesn't even they don't even sort of go back to that. And then by the time the driver gets shot and the what's his name? Not Gary. What's Gary's name in this one again? Morgan. He jumps off, and then the truck hits the limo. Right? It splits in two, but how the hell does it split like in perfect unison to the two? Like, surely, like, that would have just been gone bang, and it wouldn't have split. But yeah, okay, because this is a B grade movie, It makes sense. Not. Yep.
And to make the stunt safe, they needed to stop it close to the end of the bridge. That's so you wouldn't have as far to fall.
I feel like Gary was CG'd into that, because I'm just looking at, I'm just like, he just jumped, but it looks like he's jumped forward instead of just jumped sideways. I'm like, how the hell does that work? It's come back to continuity. Sorry, what's the word? Continuity. Yeah, continuity. So fuck this hay fever. It just didn't make sense, like, the whole bit.
I did like after, so he's got a moment of quiet reflection in a dimly lit, the apartment's only lit supposedly by the light from outside.
Yeah.
Like, there's a nice sort of play with shadows there, and then when it's got cutting to flashbacks of him in happier times with his family. Again, I think they stumbled onto something there with Gary, like getting him to just reflect, to appear like he's mourning or brooding like that silently. It's actually that's where a real strength of his lies, and they used it quite well in the few scenes that they did have it. But then it leads into the final sequence, which takes place at another factory where the bad guys store their drugs and pack their drugs, and he manages to sneak in just by wearing a bowling shirt over his real clothes. And carrying something as a disguise.
It was a water one of those water cooler things.
Yeah. and I was thinking, 1 year apart from Blood Moon, and he's fighting in another factory for the finale.
Yeah.
I
wonder if that was the same factory too.
That's what I was going to ask. I tried to find out on IMDb, but there is so little information on both of these movies that you couldn't tell. And I was shattered, because I was thinking this would have been awesome if he was actually fighting in the same factory. But the way that he silently took out a lot of the cannon fodder, I guess. It did look kind of cool, where he was like a one-man army. There was one bit where he rammed this one dude's throat against the handrail, and then he elbowed him to the back of the neck. I was like, that is freaking awesome. You need more of that.
It was awesome, but I was just like, I don't want to see that. That looks painful.
Oh man, it's like in Broken Arrow, like when someone gets hit in the throat, and then you see them start suffocating. I was like, yeah, that's definitely what happened to this guy. But it plays out quite well. Like, clearly they've seen a lot of other action movies where there's a one-man army, and then it worked. I thought, again, it was a good highlight of his skills, brief as it was. I thought it was quite fitting to chuck that in. But again, they didn't do nearly enough. Like, there wasn't a villain that could take him on hand-to-hand as convincingly as Darren Shalavi. There were signs of it though, like, where he was actually having trouble with some of the cannon fodder villains. So there's one dude who had a shower cap on, and it's really nice to see action heroes who, I guess, could lose a fight. Like, you could believe that they could lose, because you read up on it now, and people like The Rock and Jason Statham, they both have clauses in their contracts saying that they can't be hit that much.
Yeah.
So like they have to dominate the fight scenes a lot of the time, which I think is terrible. You know, like you want to see in some ways you want to see the hero just eke out or, you know, just barely make it through certain things. You know, like that I think would make things more believable. And, you know, I think it's something that's quite lost in today's world. It's nice to see in movies like John Wick where you can, you know, Keanu, he gets the crap kicked out of him in a lot of things, and, you know, he fights people who are supposedly on his level too, which is great. But yeah, in this they really missed out on, you know, like if they'd cast someone, I don't know, like let's say for example, if they did bring in Darren Shalavi for this, like Darren Shalavi could have been a more convincing physical foil for Gary Daniels. But you get some decent stuff. I mean, you know, yeah, you get some more John Woo style, you know, 2-hand guns firing. He was a bit more accurate here. You get some early MMA techniques. So like he ends up choking out a dude in a guillotine. That I thought was pretty decent. Does some other stuff here where it kind of looked silly. So the eldest Sloan brother was the surviving son, and he was about to shoot Gary Daniels, but Gary decides to turn around, but then this guy misses his shot, and then when he turns around, he just sort of like spins around and shoots him right through the head. I was like, okay,
yeah.
that could have been played out better. Like I kind of thought about like how Chris Tucker did it in Rush Hour. Like I think that probably would have been better. Like, you know, if he'd like dropped his gun, but then it turned out, you know, he got the one that was hidden in his ankle holster or something like that. That would have been good. But yeah, like he then comes face to face with the head of the family, Mr. Sloan, and they don't duke it out with fists. He shoots him in the kneecap. Manages to also get a trail of gasoline, and finally makes use of the Zippo lighter that he's been playing with through the entire movie, even though he hasn't been depicted as a smoker at all. That was the only reason why he had the Zippo lighter. If you watch the movie, all you will see is that Zippo, and you'll just think that's going to come in handy later. And it certainly does. But he blows up the factory.
Well, he doesn't blow up the factory, he just blows up the dad.
Yes, but it's interesting how the flames don't actually come near him, even though he's quite close.
Yeah, that's right.
Because, you know, like, I mean, it's not as if that gasoline trickled away, like, let's say, like, you know, 50 meters away. Like, this is only at most 15 meters away. Maybe even less than that.
And if there was a couple of tankers there would be, you know, a bit of whiplash effects for Gary, you know, like if the explosion should have at least even just moved his hair, maybe his jacket, and nothing. The
flames don't engulf him. He's magically far, far away from these flames, and then it just cuts to black and credits. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That...
Oh man, I hate that ending so much.
And then I bet you, like, some person who either wrote this or even the director, they'd be like, oh yeah, it was meant to be ambiguous. Do you reckon they would say, yeah, it was ambiguous whether he committed suicide or not?
No, I had a different thing. I just thought that, you know, they shot and they asked the director, how do you think? He goes, I like it. We'll just keep that, and we'll make a lot of money. Okay, roll it. That's all I saw. Like, when you end a movie like that, and if they are trying to be ambiguous, it's so mind-bendingly stupid, because it's just like, you didn't really give us enough time to be involved with him, or even have an actor who's going to be making us feel that what he's doing is the right thing or even the wrong thing. And to have an ending like that, you're just like, so that's it? Like, there's no repercussions for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't like movies when they do that. It's just really lazy. But again, they were running on a budget, so maybe, you know, that was it, and that's all they could shoot. Maybe they did want to have something else. Maybe the next day he woke up and it was all a dream. His kids and his wife were sitting right next to him the entire time. We don't know.
Again, I think that they should have bookended this movie with him visiting his family at the cemetery.
Yeah.
Like, that would have made for a much better ending rather than the one that we did get.
Yeah, that's right.
It it just feels like such a waste of the talent. Like, I mean, I don't know what he would be like if he had a better script, but I think that, again, if he had actually arrived in the 80s, he would have probably benefited from the boom of action films back then, and he probably would have gotten some better roles. And
I highly agree with you on that one. You're totally right.
I reckon he should have been. Well, you know, he's not American, but I reckon he would have been a more convincing ninja than the American ninja. But Michael Dudikoff was awesome. I will say that.
That's right, Michael Dudikoff. But you know, with this movie, the whole storyline and everything, just like if you move a little bit of the parts away, this is the exact same plotline of the 2003 Punisher movie. It's exactly the same, just with, you know, more of a mob scene and better action, better acting. And no boobs. That's
all you were after, really. You just enjoyed the skin.
Yeah, that's all I did. Yeah, I can't lie. Yeah, that was the only reason why I enjoyed it.
And I did like how you said to me off camera. What happened with the actress that plays his wife in this?
Oh yeah,
I think her name's Kelly McCarthy or something.
Is that her name? Hang on, let me just have a look.
Yes, Kelly McCarthy as Tina Morgan.
Oh yeah, Kelly McCarthy. Yeah, I thought it was funny because like I thought because I was trying to find out who the hooker was and I couldn't find it, and then I thought, and when I saw on the Wikipedia Kelly McCarthy, I thought that was it. I didn't realize it was it, and then it turns out that she did porn.
Yeah.
After this.
Yeah, she did. Former Miss America, and then she tried to get into Hollywood, and a few years later she would enter the adult film industry.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
sorry, Dan. Are we wrapping this up now? Do you have somewhere to be?
No. It just got awkward. Let's ask the most important question.
Yeah, let's ask the most important question. What is in Dan's browsing history?
Oh gosh.
Just gonna clear that. Clear cache.
So most important question. Was it cool?
Sadly, no.
Yeah, it's a no for me. I tried to watch the second viewing, as if I was 15 years old, and you know, would I enjoy this? And honestly, no, I probably wouldn't enjoy it either at that point, because it feels like a movie that I would have liked when I was a kid, but nah, just couldn't get into it.
Gary, you're a legend. But yeah, sadly, this wasn't the crowning piece of your career. Although I do read online that this is a favorite of Gary Daniels fans. I don't know why, because I think that Blood Moon is a superior film. As hard as that movie is to get through, like, it definitely had the better action. Didn't have really puzzling bits to it, like, you know, for example, where Sloane says no guns, like, that was just stupid. That really did not set up the action sequence well at all. But, you know, like, again, I think that if he had started in the 80s and gotten a better role, we probably would have been seeing different work from him. Like, he would probably be where Van Damme's at now. And, you know, he's got a lot of those elements as an action star that would work. You know, he's got the looks, he's definitely got the moves. You know, he makes a lot of those kicks look like they're his own. And, you know, he does have a certain charisma. You know, he might have struggled with line delivery, but of course, you know, like, you need acting coaches and what have you to get anywhere good in terms of that skill. And again, the bits where he's in silence, that is probably where the film shines for him. I don't think that he should just be silent throughout a lot of movies, but, you know, if he was playing as a villain, it would have worked, because, yeah, I mean, when he was in The Expendables, he did quite well in that. Scott Adkins had interviewed a whole bunch of actors on his YouTube show. So Mark Dacascos, the fella, Jeff Speakman, I think, the fella from Perfect Weapon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Gary Daniels, Marco Zaror. I could definitely see a movie with these guys who were, you know, either brief stars in the 80s or stars of the 90s and early aughts. I could see them doing a a picture together and definitely making it more kick-ass than anything that's being released, and probably even more kick-ass than the Expendables film, certainly the third one.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Castbox and Stitcher. And while you're there, leave us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and enable those notifications. If you can't wait for our next episode, why not check out our Tumblr page? Find us at What If It's Called Podcast. Make sure to find us on Facebook at What If It's Called Podcast, tweet us at What If It's Called, and find us on Instagram at What If It's Called Podcast. Keep that support coming. And until next time, folks, we'll catch you on the next cast.